Hi and welcome to the Snooze Strategists. This is the show where we share with you how to be more focused, rested and productive by providing strategies to manage your energy levels through better sleep. I might pull up the Parliamentary Inquiry report. I'll have a quick look at some key snippets.
This basically says about 40% of the population they're not having enough quality sleep. So it's almost half the population, right? And what people don't realize it, sleeping is not just shutting down for the night. The impact of sleep, it has impact on your obesity, it has impact on mental health, other disorders like your diabetes or your cholesterol. So it's linked to everything, and your daytime energy, mood. So if you fix sleep, if you have some good quality sleep, I'm not saying sleep will fix your whole life, but that will make your life so much easier. And as you mentioned before, you don't have to work hard, you can work smart. You can definitely do the amount of work you're doing now, pushing the hours probably a lot earlier, make some high quality decisions. But it's great that these reports are coming in. And in the past, I think Deloitte has published few in Australia as well in the last 20 years. So there are some good quality reports. There's numbers and data. Now it's time for the actions, I think.
Yeah. And that's an interesting point you made, that it won't fix your life, but this is the baseline that you should have.
That's right.
In a good night's sleep is the minimum that you should have to do the best that you can throughout the day, whether it's relationships, whether it's friendship, whether it's work, right? If you don't even have that, then you're already, behind the eight ball, as they say. You're already starting out at it, and then it's in your control that, well, I keep saying that, and yet it's clearly not it. I'm not doing a good job controlling my own sleep. But just a little bit of background for this report. So this was in 2019. This is the most recent inquiry. So here in Australia, there was a submission or a request to conduct a parliamentary inquiry, which is an opportunity for the public to submit into an issue of importance. And the resulting document was called Bedtime Reading, Inquiry into Sleep Health Awareness in Australia. The problem I'm showing the screen here, the main thing I've noticed here is the almost 4 in every 10 Australians are regularly not having enough quality sleep. That was the key call out. But then also, as you mentioned, the report from Deloitte sort of called out that $66.3 billion cost impact. Part of that is pathological sleep disorders, which are the what was that? That was the 40 billion. So there's a health cost, and then the 26 billion is inadequate sleep. So that's a lot, 26.2 billion in the years of 2016 to 2017, impacting 7.4 million Australians when it comes to workplace things that kind of in your control to address. So it's a pretty massive quantification of impact there.
Yeah, well, this is really compelling, and I think they have broken down it nicely as well. There's an issue. We have facts to prove it, I think, and you're right. It's up to the individual to make actions, but perhaps these are the conversations now people can have with one another, like your work colleagues, your family members. Are you having a good sleep? Maybe that's how this should be addressed.
That's a good point. So that's part of the reflection discussion that we've been having in the background around, as part of preparing this channel and doing our homework and looking at what are the kind of often discussed tips and techniques. Quite often they're not enough on their own, and they're quite dependent on your own self-awareness and motivation. And we know that we're not always the most strongest when it comes to whether it's quitting smoking or, reducing how much beer you have, or that sort of thing. Just it's human nature that there's certain things that we're a little bit weak at. I thought this was interesting that they do mention, Professor Matthew Walker, and in the report, his book Why We Sleep, in particular because he's been on social media a lot. There've been a number of authors who have popped up. Sleep is slowly becoming topical, which is a really good thing. It needs to be part of general public conversation. So I like this, what they've called out from his book, that he suggested that society's apathy towards sleep has in part been caused by the historic failure of science to explain why we need it. Sleep has remained one of the last great biological mysteries.
Rise of Matthew Walker, so the popularity of this book really changed the societal kind of view of sleep, because he really went into the impact of sleep and why we should all improve our sleep. But more than that, I think this court, the Parliamentary Inquiry report had sleep medicine. It's a relatively new field, even though these issues has been there for forever. I think that's one of the issues. We still don't really fully understand how sleep works. There are a lot of mysteries around it. And other issue with sleep is that because we sleep, everyone sleeps every day, so that's something we don't care about, and it's just part of our lives. So it's not a big deal for most of the people. But yeah, this is great, I think. And you're right, there are more books popping up. That definitely we hear about sleep a bit more now, but there's a lot of work yet to be done.
And I think this is really important in terms of introducing a concept into popular culture. And when you think of, you talked about research and the frustration in the world of research to actually have an impact. So whether it's CSIRO or any body in Australia that does research, there's always going to be a challenge in translating that to some practical outcome, which has a commercial component, because you quite often need a customer to pay to engage with the product or the solution. I think books and I guess literature, popular culture play an important role in helping to popularize. Some of the science gets lost sometimes, but I think it's a critical turning point when people start referring to Matthew Walker or others in terms of what they've written, and starting to adapt or adopt that into their own workplace discussions or family discussions or discussions with friends.
Hopefully those discussions will lead into actions. I think that's where
that's the important thing. The action bit is missing. We've got great evidence, there's great reports, lots of them were pointed to in the report, the Parliamentary Inquiry. The question, and we'll get to the recommendations as well at the end of this, but yes, the question is what next, and who's actually going to encourage people to take action? What's going to be that trigger? There's a page I'm looking at here on the impact of digital. SleepFit is Australian, a Melbourne-based company that have an app which helps to track and to provide insights on sleep. And they've called out here, we live in a world of constant digital stimulation and electronic entertainment, and many of us value alternatives to sleep higher than sleep itself.
This is a problem with technology, isn't it? We, from kind of entrepreneurship point of view, if you develop an app or if you build a new platform, what we want is to people to get hooked into it.
Yes, yeah.
But that's with the rise of social media and streaming services like Netflix, and there are so many of them now. Everything is built to get you addicted, hooked into it. So it really impacts other part of your life, because I mean, I was guilty of this at sometimes. Just having a really busy day, you just need change. You don't want to think. You sometimes just sit and go through a whole season in Amazon Prime in one night, and that's just unfortunate part of our lives now. And we really have to be a lot more disciplined around it. I think the key is to understand a lot of this new tech is designed to get you hooked into, addicted to it. Constantly episodes coming in, the something to stimulate you all the time. So it's almost like a drug, I guess.
And I guess that's the challenge with the emergence of the business model where your attention is critical for their success.
Yeah, that's right.
They're all fighting for every moment that you're engaged with the device.
Yeah, that's right. And because of this competition from different players in the market, I think this will only get worse. They'll find more behavioral ways to get into that human attention. So the appeal from the technology will be higher and higher. So you will really have to be, I think, quite strong-willed to fight that and make sure you stick to your daily routines.
I'm just looking at a screen about the impact of the lack of sleep. So what does it actually do to you? And I've sort of asked you directly as well. And just a little quote here from the Australasian Sleep Association. They stated that insufficient sleep affects the functioning of every cell in the human body. While there is a need for further research on the health impacts, available evidence suggests that insufficient sleep increases the risk of many serious health conditions, including obesity, as you mentioned, diabetes, cardiovascular conditions, and cancer. Is that something you've seen much of, at least through the hospital system, in the roles that you've been working in?
Yeah, definitely. I think with people with sleep issues, we constantly see that association with diabetes or cardiovascular conditions. Sometimes it is a bit tricky to, and also, the mental health. We see depression and anxiety is very common. At times it is almost like chicken and egg, try to figure out whether, like what causes it. But I think that's why I'm not sure whether people understand this, or they'd see as sleep is just a smaller part of their daily lives, but it plays a significant role in keeping you healthy and well.
Yeah, it's really important to call out that it's interesting. We focus so heavily on our health and well-being when we're awake, but not when we're asleep. And it's interesting. And we've talked about it in the past. You spend half your life sleeping, and yet how much do we plan and consider and prepare to ensure that, once again, as you mentioned before, quality, it's the quality of the sleep, not just the fact that you had some shut-eye.
Yeah, you're right. And the amount of things we do to make our awake part of our life better, whether it's your nice clothes or fancy cars, or supplements, and going to gym regularly, but how often we actually care about sleep itself. How might I sleep better? How might I improve my sleep? I do think there's a bit more awareness now. If you walk into a chemist or a pharmacy, you will see shelves full of different supplements that claim to help you to sleep. And the reason they are there, I think people keep buying them. So I think there's people try to put some band-aid solutions. And like, I think we touched base that in previous episode as well. It's time to, I think, prioritize sleep and then build your life around that sleep.
It's an important message there, building our lives around the sleep, because we've never done it before. But more importantly, no one's taught us to either, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I just want to call out this judgment and mental functioning. So the RACP is sort of called out. At least we were thinking more about the office situation and how does this lack of sleep impact you. So they call out a few things here. Sleep loss impairs cognition, psychomotor function, and mood. This can result in lapses in attention and clear focus, reduced motivation, compromised problem solving, confusion, irritability, memory losses, etc., etc. So there's quite a bit there. It feels like I'm experiencing a lot of that throughout the day. But sorry, my dog's going off.
No, that's all right. I think it's a great reminder the impact sleep has on our daily functions. Also, one of the reasons that I think one of the earlier slides you shared showed that there can be different reasons why you don't get enough sleep as well, whether it's work, we have discussed in the past, medical conditions, family situations, and also having pets. I think there were recent studies showing if you have your dog sleeping with you on the bed, like, you get less hours of sleep. I mean, you don't need a study. I feel like it's common sense in a way. So there are a lot of things that contribute to the sleep issue, and that's why, like we mentioned in the past, and I think you mentioned a few times as well, we need to tackle this as a group, not just you have that support from your family, your partner, your workmate.
Economic impact, we talked about this already a little bit before. I'll just pull up on the screen that number, 66.3 billion.
Wow. Yeah.
Total cost of inadequate sleep, and that's probably increasing, and it's probably something that, you know, if we were more aware of it, where our tax dollars are going, then maybe that's something we might care about a little bit more. But unfortunately, like most things that go to a parliamentary inquiry, there's some time before any of that trickles down to impact. Just quickly wanted to mention the Alertness CRC, so Collaborative Research Centre. So that was interesting to come across that there's actually a group that's got funding from government to help invest in and co-research, sponsor research in the space of alertness. But I think this is interesting. So I've sort of skipped to the end, which is the recommendations from the Parliamentary Inquiry. So there are 11 things that came out. You don't have to walk through all of them. Actually, I'll mention them because for those of you on the podcast, you can't see this. It's interesting to think of what has been put in place. So this is 4 years ago now. This was released. What's actually landed here in Australia, or what hasn't, or what were the recommendations, or actually what are the opportunities based on these recommendations? So there's 11 of them. The first one is develop a national sleep health strategy. There's number 2, establish a national sleep health awareness campaign. I haven't heard of any campaign yet, so maybe it hasn't landed. 3, improve sleep disorder diagnosis and treatment. 4, promote sleep-friendly environments. And that was really interesting because they also talked about the workplace. And, you know, we hear about Google and, they've got sleep pods and things like that. So, and we talked about it, I think, in one of our first episodes around, you know, shared an experience in Telstra where they actually did have a little sleep room. Some organizations have them, so that's really good. Apart from your own home environment, is important. Number 5, improve sleep education and training for health professionals. As you are aware, in the hospital workplace, like what's the value? Not that hospital workers don't understand the value, but I think the work, as we'll be talking about more often, is a strong driver of that. So the question is it about training the staff, or is it about changing how the organization prioritizes the sleep for everyone? Number 6, increase public awareness of the importance of sleep health. Sounds like the sleep health campaign. Support research into sleep health. So yes, well, you've got a CRC, more money, I guess. 8, address the impact of shift work on sleep health. So you've mentioned you've done sleep health before and it was hell. And I think in this report, they called out a lot of the impacts on shift workers in particular. Did you want to, you can...
Yeah, I think in regards to shift work, absolutely, it's probably the worst part of my work life is just shift work. Even though it's used to shift work, I don't think we can get rid of it. We will still have to do shift work in whether it's hospital or whatever the industry people are working in. Problem is, organizations should understand the impact of shift work having on their workers. That's where I think that's an area we have to work on, and provide them with tools and strategies that would minimize the impact it has. And there's a lot of research to support the negative impact of shift work. I know that I think Alertness CRC was doing some work a few years ago in that area, but hopefully there'll be proper strategies to address and the welfare of the staff, because I know in some instances they can't even bring that issue with the management because it was considered as a daily part of their life. Therefore, they should basically suck up and do it. It's not great. Yeah.
So what was the actual impact of doing shift work?
You get to sleep. You would be sleeping during the daytime. So once again, it's associated with increased obesity because the metabolism rate would be lower when you sleep during the day. You will have the residual fatigueness. You will always be tired with you constantly changing your body clock. And some of the issues we discussed in our a podcast about social jet lag would apply here as well. Mental health risks, negative immunity wise, I think there are some studies showing that you could be more prone to because it's almost your body pushing through shifting like 12 hours at a time. There's quality of life concerns around you would be sleep when the whole world's awake, so a bit of a connection aspect of things. There's a whole bunch of things.
There's you miss out on the social side, so I guess you can't really connect with friends and family, that sort of thing.
That's right.
Okay. Similarly, the impact of sleep disorders on mental health is something they want to have addressed. 10 was improve access to sleep health services in rural and remote areas. So you're saying that sleep is an emerging or is a fairly new studies area. What kind of sleep health services would they be talking about?
I think the problem with sleep, primary networks, especially so in GPs in Australia, a lot of them aren't trained in sleep. Therefore, they would. I think there's a bit of a lag in diagnosing patients, so providing them support. So I think sleep health services they mentioned here could be access to having that availability of sleep physicians, and also it could be more like telehealth sort of services as well to when there's a problem, they almost not necessarily fast track, but they are in the right track to get the need. There's sleep psychologists now that support with issues like insomnia, but they're very rare, very limited number of resources, mainly around metropolitan cities. So there's a serious gap there.
Okay. And 11, finally, improve sleep health data collection. Back to us now. I think that was a really interesting little meander through this parliamentary inquiry, but I think part of the direction we're taking as well is looking into, based on the challenge, the national, if not global challenge with sleep, what's the role of leadership to play in here? What's the role of organizations, and how can we be a little bit more focused on developing solutions in whatever shape or form that may be?
I think a problem with a lot of these government initiatives, it takes really long time for the action to come out of it. So you're right, it's been 4 years or 5 years now. That's put I think accountability on the individual as well as the leaders out there to do the right thing. We can link all these reports, I think, in our show notes, and hopefully people can read and understand more, get into all the fine details, and hopefully that will help you to understand the problem itself. It's simple. It's a simple solution, and solution is very simple as well. And maybe that will lead you to, or drive you to, make the right calls around your workplaces and areas that you have the power to change.
Cool. Now, this has been interesting. It's been a great foray into sort of like a few things that we've covered, but it brings together a lot of the things that we've talked about, and culminating in, actually, this is a really critical health issue. I didn't think that this would be talking about health so prominently in this. We do want to talk about the leadership side as well. But no, this has been great. Any final words for our audience before we sign off, Ashen?
I think hopefully this episode will provide you why there's a need to address the sleep. I think we talked about a lot of the tools in the previous episodes. So definitely, if you have any other questions, reach out to us. We can message us from our socials, and we are definitely happy to identify what topics we should discuss in the future as well. And reach out, provide some feedback. We'd love to kind of change how we go as we kind of maturing into our podcast now.
Cool. Thanks for that. And thank you everyone that's been supporting us, and great to see some subscribers joining up. But yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe. We're really enjoying seeing the engagement. See you later.